My name is Rachel Myers, and I live in a quiet neighborhood in Vermont. I'm 43 years old, married to a kind man named Daniel, and we have a 12-year-old daughter, Lily. For most of my life, I've been the kind of person who believes there's an explanation for everything, until last winter, when something happened that changed that belief forever. It began in late November, when the nights started getting longer and colder. Daniel worked as a firefighter, often doing overnight shifts. Lily and I were used to being alone during those nights, but that particular week, something in the air felt different, heavier somehow. I couldn't quite explain it, but even before anything happened, I felt watched. One Friday night, Daniel left for his 24-hour shift, kissing me on the forehead before walking out the door. Lily was asleep upstairs, and I curled up on the couch with a blanket, watching the snow fall through the window. Everything was silent except for the faint hum of the heater and the occasional crackle of wood from the fireplace. I must have dozed off because the next thing I remember was waking up to a strange sound, a slow, deliberate creak, like someone stepping on the old floorboard near the hallway. My heart jumped. I checked the clock. It was 2:17 a.m. For a moment, I thought it might be Lily getting up for a glass of water, but when I listened closely, the sound wasn't light like her small footsteps. It was heavier, slower. I whispered, "Lily." No answer. I stood up and grabbed the small flashlight we kept on the side table for power outages. The beam cut through the dark living room, illuminating nothing but shadows. I walked toward the hall, my bare feet brushing the cold hardwood floor. "Lily, honey, is that you?" I asked again, my voice barely above a whisper. The house remained silent. I peeked into Lily's room. She was asleep, curled under her blanket, her little nightlight glowing softly beside her bed. I sighed with relief. Maybe it was just the house settling. Old houses make noises, I told myself. But when I turned to head back to my room, I felt it, a faint warmth behind me, like someone standing close enough that I could sense the heat of their body through the air. I froze. It wasn't the heater. It wasn't my imagination. I could feel it. Something was behind me. My breath caught in my throat. Slowly, I turned my head just enough to glance over my shoulder. Nothing. Just the dimly lit hallway. I walked faster than I'd like to admit back to my room, locked the door, and climbed into bed. I turned on the lamp beside me and kept it on until morning. When Daniel came home the next day, I told him what happened. He laughed lightly, saying, "It's an old house, Rach. Probably the ducts or the heater vent blowing behind you." I wanted to believe him. I tried to. But that night, the warmth returned. This time, it wasn't faint, it was stronger, like someone was standing right at my back while I lay in bed. Daniel was on shift again, and the house was still. The heater wasn't even running. I pulled the blanket tighter, but the warmth didn't fade. It felt like a slow, steady breath against my shoulder. Terrified, I rolled over quickly, no one there. But the indentation on the other side of the bed made my blood run cold. It looked like someone had been lying there. I didn't sleep at all that night. The following morning, I checked the thermostat and vents. Everything was normal. I even had a technician come out the next day to make sure. He said, "Everything's in perfect working order, ma'am." For a few days, the feeling stopped. I started to think maybe my exhaustion had played tricks on me. Then, the day after Thanksgiving, Lily came downstairs pale and quiet. "Mom," she whispered, "someone sat on my bed last night." I looked at her sharply. "What do you mean?" She hugged her stuffed rabbit tightly. I woke up and felt the bed move. I thought it was you, but when I opened my eyes, nobody was there. Every hair on my body stood on end. That evening, I sprinkled salt at the windows and said a prayer. It felt silly, but it gave me a little peace. Until midnight, I woke to the familiar warmth at my back. My eyes snapped open. I could hear the soft rustle of sheets, like someone moving behind me. I whispered, trembling, "Daniel," knowing full well he wasn't home. The warmth stayed. The air thickened. My pulse thundered in my ears. I turned slowly, and there was a faint outline beside me. A human shape, translucent, still. It vanished the moment I gasped. I leapt from the bed and ran to Lily's room, shaking her awake. We stayed in the living room with every light on until dawn. Daniel came home to find both of us exhausted and frightened. When I told him what happened, his face went pale. He admitted something he hadn't before. A few months earlier, while working a night shift, he'd come home to grab something and thought he saw me sleeping with someone beside me. He said he blinked, and the figure disappeared. He'd convinced himself it was a dream. After that night, we decided to stay at my sister Claire's house for a while. Claire lived only 10 minutes away, and her home always felt warm and peaceful. While we were gone, Daniel returned to pick up some clothes one afternoon. When he came back, he looked shaken. He said the air in our bedroom was freezing cold, except for one spot on the bed, where it felt warm, like someone had just been lying there. He burned sage, prayed, and left the house. A few weeks later, we returned for Christmas. Everything seemed calm again. Lily laughed, we decorated, and the warmth never came back. For a while, it felt like whatever had been there had finally gone. Until New Year's Eve. That night, as the clock struck midnight, we heard a faint knock at our bedroom door. Daniel got up, opened it, and found no one there. When he closed it, a whisper brushed through the air. It was faint, but I swear I heard it say my name. The warmth came back behind me. Only this time, it didn't feel frightening, it felt sad. Heavy, almost, lonely. I whispered softly into the air, who are you? No answer, but the warmth faded slowly, like a breath released. The next morning, the air in the room felt lighter than it had in months. We never felt that presence again. Daniel thinks it was the spirit of the home's previous owner, an elderly man who'd passed away in that very room before we moved in. I don't know what it was. Maybe he was looking for peace. Maybe he just didn't want to be forgotten. Now, years later, I still sometimes feel a brief flicker of warmth behind me, especially on cold nights. I don't run from it anymore. I whisper, you're not alone, and it fades, like a thank you. I don't know if I believe in ghosts, but I do believe that some people, or spirits, stay behind for reasons we may never understand. And maybe, in their own way, they just want someone to acknowledge they were once here, once loved, once human.